Welcome to my toy room. I thought I'd make this video because the only other way to see this collection of mine has been in person, and I've had one or two repairmen ask questions and be stunned by it, and so I figured maybe it'd be interesting to put it on the internet. The other reason is for insurance purposes. I would like to be able to prove that, if I'm ever robbed or the house burns down or something, that I actually had quite an extensive He-Man collection. I know it will result in me never getting a date again, but I hear girls like a guy who has more than 6 figures. So, here we go. I'm going to start with the vintage stuff and maybe hopefully tell some interesting stories on the way through. As you can see, these are my vintage figures. These are originals released in around 1982. They're all complete, and they have their mini comics and all their weapons, and they're all in pristine condition. The way I got the majority of this collection here is that I bought them in large lots off of eBay, and I started collecting once I realized eBay was a thing when I was about 14 or 15 years old. And so I'd buy them in large lots and part them out, take the ones that were in good condition and sell everything else off individually and make my money back. The majority of this collection didn't actually cost me that much, maybe a few $100s at the very end when I started buying some of the harder to find weapons just straight off eBay for way too much money. But the one figure in here that I think you should watch out for is my Wonder Bread He-Man, or otherwise known as Savage He-Man. He's extremely rare to the degree that most collectors don't actually think he's a thing. He's a He-Man with black hair and brown boots, and I found him in a lot. Now, back in the day, you had to send in 6 UPC codes in order to get him, but it wasn't a very well-known giveaway, and so not many people did it. So he's extremely rare to the degree that most people don't even think he's a thing. But he's coming at the very end, and he's worth anywhere from $900 to $2,000 depending on the condition of him. It'll be right there. He is right there. So he's a holy grail piece, as it's called, for a He-Man collection. So that's all the vintage figures. Here just to give you a last shot of what every single figure of that toy line looked like, spanning from 1982 all the way to 1986. And then we'll move on to the play sets. Ka-chow! Alright, so here we are at the vintage play sets and vehicles. And as you can see, I have all of the common ones: Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, Point Dread on top. They're all complete, they're all in fantastic condition. But the one piece I have in the playset area that's a holy grail is the Eternia playset. It's rather expensive and very rare. It came at the end of the line when the He-Man toy line wasn't selling as well, and we're trying to boost some life into it. So here it is here, this blue. This is the main tower to it. Tiger head on top. And it has 2 matching towers for Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain. It has a Snake Tower and it has a Castle Grayskull Tower. And they all are meant to click together and make one massive playset. And so right now it's not set up properly. I have it on display, but to set it up you need like 8 feet wide and about 5 to 6 feet tall. The kid that had this back in the 80s would have been the most popular kid on the block. But now I have it and no one seems to care. So lots of fond memories of all of those vehicles and toys, right? But moving on to the next toy line that they came up with. Badam! The 2000X He-Man and Masters of the Universe series. This toy line came out with a matching cartoon in 2002 all the way to about 2007, 2008. That's why it's called the 2000X line. And once again, I have every single one of these, except they're all on card. So they're complete and they're in fantastic condition. But part of the reason the line died is that Skeletor you can see right there that I'm zooming in on. That's Disco Skeletor, and they put the toy line on shelves and made everyone such wacky colors that kids didn't care and neither did collectors. And so once the collectors got what they wanted, no one bought any of it. So they sat on the shelves for a very long time, and it killed the toy line prematurely. And because this toy line died prematurely, badam, we go over to the Staxions. The Staxion figures here are called that because they're basically static action figures. They had all the sculpts for He-Man toys that they were going to release, and because the toy line was canceled, they never got made. So another toy line, or another toy company named NECA picked them up and made them all as statues instead, all the same size as they would have been had they been action figures. And so I've got every single one of these as well, and they're all obviously on cards, so they're in pristine condition. But these are hard to find today. And the way I got these was actually rather interesting. I found them all together on card, the way you see them there. I cleaned them up a little bit. But a girl on Kijiji was selling all of them out of Toronto. So I went, drove over, picked them up, paid her like $90 for all of them. Each of these is worth $200 to $300 now. And before I left, I was curious, didn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but asked her why she was selling them for so cheap. And apparently her boyfriend had left them in her storage unit, and they had broken up, and she was selling them as kind of a revenge thing. So I wasn't going to think twice, and I got Pow! After they did that 2000X line, there was a hiatus of about 10 years, and then they came out with this toy line, the Masters of the Universe Classics line. They were smarter this time. Instead of trying to involve children in it, they sold only online directly to collectors. And what the line is every single character from mini comics to cartoons to coloring books, any sort of media that was He-Man involved, they made the character. They made him with a better paint job, with more accessories and more articulation with today's technology. So these really are the best He-Man figures that they've ever made. And because they were able to draw the collector in, the line is very successful. So there's a lot of these. So be expected to see quite a few of these here. They even managed to cover the He-Man movie. And so these are the movie figures. And they're some of the prettiest He-Man figures that were ever made. As a kid, I wanted these, and they never made them. And so now as an adult, having them on my wall is actually kind of awesome. Same with that Laser Power He-Man and Laser Light Skeletor. The line took the opportunity to make figures that are from the vintage line, but most collectors don't have because they go for ridiculous prices, like that Laser Light He-Man and Laser Power Skeletor there. They were only released in Italy at the very end of the line, and so each of those vintage versions of those figures go for anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000, and I don't think most people are willing to pay that. And so when they put them in this line, brand new, we were all able to own a version without having to break the bank. That only cost like $60 or something like that for two figures, so $30 a pop. I've got my He-Man poster there as well for the movie. And then here's where they did a lot of the Filmation characters, and then this line ended, and then they just started releasing them straight up as their own line. But damn! Onto the She-Ra figures. They covered not only He-Man, but She-Ra, the New Adventures of He-Man, and the 2000X cartoon as well. So here we have all of the made She-Ra figures. They got quite a few of them done, at least enough to please the She-Ra fans for the most part, as well as a couple extras that weren't actually figures. We move into the Snake Men. And the Snake Men were a really big part of the 2000X cartoon. And so you can see the 2000X outfit there and some of the Snake warriors that they built. Those just kind of army builders. And then this section here are the rare chase figures. So the Fancy Attorney He-Man, he was in German audiobooks only. There's Slanka He-Man, he's only in one mini comic. And so, because not a lot of people wanted those, you had to really track them down and chase them down. And a good example of a chase figure is about to come up here. It's the Red Hordak on the very end. There's the Spirit of Hordak, and he'd only appear on the website periodically at random times, and so you had to get lucky and find him. Hope that you just, on the day that you were visiting the website, on that particular page, that you'd find a way to click the link to buy him. And so a lot of people, frustrated with that, just ended up buying him off eBay like I did. But damn! 2000X figures here. These are characters that were only in the 2000X cartoon, and or the versions that were only in the 2000X cartoon. And so we had a handful of those. And then the New Adventures. So you've got basically Skeletor from space, and my brother loves that. And, with the glowing power sword there, the laser sword. Kind of pan down. We've got a couple invented characters from Four Horsemen and Scott Knightlick. And then we move down to some beasts and some specialized 3-packs. The Fighting Foeman and Stratos and stuff from the mini comics. Gygor and Shadow Beast. And then on to Wajam! The Titus, Megator, like special edition stuff they did. Titus and Megator are also from the vintage line, and again released at the very end and released only in Europe and Italy, and so they go for $3,000 to $4,000 each in the vintage line. So it was nice of them to make some updated versions of them so we could actually own them. Weep! All right, so on to the Comic-Con exclusives as well as the playsets that they made. Now, these again all came near the end of the line, and I was glad they did because at this point I was running out of money and these are very expensive. But that box art is absolutely gorgeous. That was Snake Mountain. This is Castle Grayskull, and they're all to scale to this new line, and the new line is taller than the vintage one, so everything's bigger, better paint deco, more accessories. They really did build it for the adult collector. As well as here's all the vehicles, 2 different Granomirs, one's from the mini comic, one's from the cartoon, as well as a Roton. So yeah, that's everything there. Wow! A quick recap here of what they released of the Filmation toys in the Masters Universe Classics line before they went straight into new packaging with that He-Man there and made just pure Filmation figures. These figures were designed to look exactly like the cartoon because, you know, as a kid, the toy you had in hand wasn't exactly what was on the TV screen, and it was kind of confusing and disappointing. I mean, we're happy with what we had, but for them to do this, it was a really nice nod, and it really showed that they knew what we wanted. That sparkly box there is a Comic-Con exclusive. They're all very well done, and I think some of the best He-Man figures they ever made, because they made basically childhood dreams come true. Up next is the Origin line, and wha-bam! Here we are. The Origin line is out right now, and we're looking in between the vintage figures here. So you can see Duncan in the background there, there's Teela in the background. And this is a new line meant to look like the old line, but with new articulation and everything, and these can be found in Walmarts and everything now, and so this is the current line that they're releasing. It's not as good as the Masters Universe Classic stuff, but it's still totally worth collecting. So as far as we know, there's no real cartoon attached to it, but they're doing a great job at, like, look at the card art and everything on the boxes. They look exactly like the vintage ones. But only time will tell to see if this line's successful. We're only in the beginning stages of it. The only thing really left to show you is jam! My extras. So like here we've got a cast resin statue of Snake Mountain, and it's a combination of the cartoon and the toy. This is also a cast resin statue of Castle Grayskull, and it's the only 3D version of Castle Grayskull that shows all 4 sides as well as the back and the top. Then we have the commemorative series. These came out before the 2000X series. I only have a couple of those, but they're to commemorate what the toys look like. That is a 12-inch, so a little bit bigger than Barbie size He-Man there. And this is an As Seen on TV toy line that they also made. There's Buzz Off. Then the previous one was what he looked like on TV. That's the one we had in hand. This is the in-hand Man-at-Arms when the show was on TV. And then up over here, we have Man-at-Arms, what he looked like on the TV show. And so Super 7 released all of these in the style of the vintage 80s toys to look like the cartoon. So these are basically the figures that we wanted as kids with the technology that they had at the time. They're very well done, and in a couple examples, it really seems like they could have done the toys we wanted, they just didn't. So that's all the figures, and bajam! This is all the other random merchandise. So I've got some role-play swords that were actually vintage from when I was a kid. That's a He-Man cake pan. That was a He-Man record over there. Those are the only 2 new Adventures of He-Man toys I own. There was a toy line in between the vintage stuff and then the 2000X stuff, but not a lot of collectors talk about that. Those 2 there are the Grayskull line that should have come out instead of New Adventures of He-Man, but instead that line was canceled and they went with He-Man in Space, basically, and it wasn't popular at all, and there's Planet Turning again. So yeah, that's basically my collection. Thanks for having a look. I hope this was interesting. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below in the video. If you want to see a specific figure or you want to know something about collecting or any toy in particular, I'll be more than happy to answer it for you. But I don't think a whole lot of people are going to be seeing this, so I highly doubt that. But I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I have a record of it. And This isn't actually all of my toys. I have more in box, but this is the majority of my He-Man collection. I still have a few things like She-Ra's castle and a bunch of Brave Star stuff, some Thundercats that I don't have out. But this is the expensive stuff, so I just thought I'd show you. And one last look around. Thanks for watching.